Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop. Fabulous to have you here. Today, we're going to talk all things that grind and all things that cut here in the workshop. First of all, welcome to the grinding room. When I moved in here in July, this is one of the first things that I had built. Obviously, I had some contractors come in here. Good old Carpenter Dave, he came in here and put this up. This room is, I don't know, probably 18 feet long by about 8 feet wide. It is obviously a very small room, but I am so thrilled that I built this because what this does is this keeps under control the amount of grinding dust there is. Whenever I'm in here and I'm working, I'm wearing respiratory protection, whether that's a half mask or whether that's my powered air personal respirator, PAPR, which is a lovely bit of kit to wear when you're working here because it puts cool air down your face. Oh my goodness, it's just so much better than wearing a half mask. And it means that when I'm in the rest of the workshop, I don't have to deal with as much of the dust that's made in here. Point in case in point. I had a little bit of a vacuum up of the floor. Usually when I tidy up here, I'll take an air line and I'll air everything and then vacuum up the floor. I haven't touched the windowsill, but there's a thick layer of dust. And there's no dust being thrown onto the window. It's just that the amount of dust that's created when you grind, it's all airborne and it all settles. It settles in your hair, it settles in your clothes, it settles in your lungs. And that can be so incredibly dangerous. So I'm thrilled that I made this room because it means that whenever I'm in here and there's dust in here, I've got respiratory protection on. I'm protecting myself. I'm hopefully giving myself extra years of life that I'd otherwise be shaving off, which is oh so important. And I'm just thrilled that I've got this sealed off from the rest of the workshop because otherwise this dust would be everywhere and I'd grind and then I'd walk to another part of the workshop, I'd lift the dust up in the air, it'd end up in my lungs, and then that's just a bad day because then you're getting this stuff in your lungs and you're going to do some real damage because not only is it steel dust, but it's also the abrasives. Now, in terms of equipment in here, you'll see I obviously have chop saws here in the back right-hand side. I've got a cold cutting Evolution chop saw, which is great for mild steel. And of course, I got an abrasive disc chop saw here, which is great anytime I'm working any harder materials like the Damascus and I want to hack through it without having to damage a cold cutting blade. Over here, I've got a big 9-inch angle grinder. This is where I do the bulk of my grinding for the Damascus steel. And I use a hard grinding disc on that. I've also got a couple 4.5-inch angle grinders, one equipped with a knotted wire brush, which is extremely useful. Great tool for getting rid of scale and polishing up forged work. And then I'll also have another angle grinder where I can switch out from a hard grinding disc to flap discs to a cutting disc. I also up here have this, which is an electric die grinder. It's very easy to get hold of air-powered die grinders, but these electric die grinders are just wonderful also. Works at a very high speed, and you put this little carbide burr up on here, and it's wonderful for deburring holes or for getting into radii that you can't otherwise reach, and it's just fantastic. These things can work on hardened steel. It's incredible how good those bits of equipment are. Make sure you spend some money on those carbide burrs. You know, spend at least like $30 on one, and then you're going to be able to use it for a very long time and do a lot with it. Moving forwards from here, of course, you see I've got a leg vise here, and it's not bolted down, and this has a very low center of gravity on it because of this heavy stout stand. This was set up for a forging leg vise setup, that being it's lower down. The other benefit of this being lower down is when I'm using a big angle grinder, this is a much more natural height for me, and I'm not having to hold this angle grinder up here and apply pressure from up here, but I get to apply pressure from down there. I find that a little bit easier. There are times where it's nice to have a little bit of a higher vise for the work that I do. This seems to be a little bit of the better scenario personally, and what I tend to do is I'll throw sparks off in this direction, making sure that there's nothing flammable here, because obviously throwing sparks from all this gear, very dangerous. Great way to set fire to stuff, so you always want to make sure you're throwing sparks in a safe place. Up here on the wall, I've got all my abrasives for the angle grinders, so I've got angle grinder grinding discs, I've got angle grinder cutting discs, flat discs, hard grinding discs, cutting discs. Best tip that I can give when it comes to buying abrasives is get the good quality stuff, because grinding is no fun, and the longer that you have to take grinding is more time that you got to spend doing the unhappy stuff, which is making sparks and making dust that, you know, it has the potential to do some serious damage if you're not going to protect yourself. So buy the good quality discs, get it done fast. You're going to save yourself both time and money, and because time is money, you're going to be saving yourself money. And that's a better way to get it into your head that you need to get the good quality abrasives. Now, of course, up here you'll see I have a quagmire of abrasive belts. belts for this belt grinder here. This is a beautiful little steel grinder made by 84 Engineering in Australia. I sold a number of these, very happy with this particular piece of equipment because it is a little beast. 2x48 belt, very adaptable. You can spin this thing around, get all sorts of different grinding surfaces off just simply the one platen. You can throw contact wheels in there. You can throw small wheel attachments in there. Very versatile bit of kit. This is powered off a 1.5 horse motor with a variable frequency drive, so I can slow it down, make it run backwards, yada yada yada. But we were talking about abrasive belts for your belt grinder. Let's talk a little bit about that. Again, rule number one, spend the money on them, because grinding isn't any fun. It's the sucky part of blacksmith and bladesmith work, so you want to make sure that you get it done fast and you get it done efficiently. You also want to make sure you're not overheating your workpiece too much. So spend the money on the belts, because you're going to be saving time, be able to spend more time doing the more enjoyable stuff in the workshop. There are 3 types of abrasive belt. You have on the low end your aluminum oxide, you then have your zirconium belts, and then you have your ceramic belts. Your aluminum oxide belts are going to be extremely cheap, but they're going to dull extremely quickly and are frankly zero use on steel. Zirconium belts, they are sharper, but they wear faster than ceramic. They're good on steel, not amazing on hardened steel. They're very good on wood because of that extra sharpness that you get from it. When it comes to the ceramic is fantastic for steel, and then good ceramics can be great for hardened steel. So make sure you spend the money, get good ceramics if you're wanting to grind knives and what have you. And the ceramics like the high speed, and they also like the high pressure. So you can go all out on a ceramic, and it's gonna cut faster, and in fact end up cutting cooler than if you were to just lightly touch it. You can get a good high rate of stock removal from it. So up here, I have my belts. I've got 36 and 60 grit, 120 grit, and then obviously I've got a quagmire up here. You don't want quagmires with belts. I am not good enough with this, but this is what you need to be like with belts. Dull, 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 get rid of it. There is no point having dull belts, because all you're going to do is make it more difficult to find a clean belt, which means that you're going to be spending more time working with dull belts. Look, I know, just like me, you want to be a hoarder. I know you don't want to have to throw these things out because they're expensive. But seriously, just throw them in the bin. So yeah, stick with the sharp belts. It's going to make the whole grinding process a hell of a lot more enjoyable. It's going to mean that you get the work done faster, which means that you can have more fun. Whether you're doing it as a hobby, whether you're doing it as a profession, get the work done faster. It's always a lot of fun, and it's going to help make you some more money. Over here, this is a Bailey linisher. So this is a 3x70 something belt. So what would that be? 75 by 2000 millimeter belt. And this bit of kit is powered by a 4 horsepower 3-phase motor. It is a monster. I've got a big contact wheel here. Whenever I want to do any hogging, I'll often go to this because I can throw some aggressive belts on there. I've got all these belts up here that I used to run on the belt grinder that I was using when I was in my old workshop. You can see it's got some oomph on it. You'll never slow that puppy down. Really good bit of kit to have for deburring applications. I'll keep an aggressive belt on here, and it means that I don't have to change the belt that I'm using over here. I can just go here and quickly nip stuff off. Really good bit of kit. Thank you, Bailey, for sending me that. I've very much enjoyed using it. You can adjust how that goes up and down. Fantastic bit of kit, highly recommend. I also have a tiny little compressor here, probably the smallest air compressor that any blacksmith has in his shop. And really all I use that for is blowing down the walls, and if I ever need to blow off, something off a workpiece, then I'll use this, but it's good to get the dust under control here. The general philosophy that I have with the grinding room is as soon as I'm done with a project, complete tidy up, get rid of it, make it clean and spotless. And frankly, there are some projects where I should be doing that a little bit sooner because it can get really messy in there. And if you don't have, your grinding area separated off, I'd really think about it. If there's a possible way, if you've got a big enough shop where you can separate off your grinding equipment and your cutting and your abrasives, I'd really think about it because I'm so pleased because it means that when I'm working in this environment, I don't have to deal with the dust that's created from that. So over here, of course, we got another piece of Bailey equipment. This is one of their bandsaws, and this is a lovely bit of kit. The head will swivel all the way around, meaning that I can cut some really aggressive miters. I believe it'll go all the way to like 60 degrees, something ridiculous like that. This thing has a big capacity of the material that it can cut, and of course it'll run coolant while it is that you're cutting. You can adjust the speed that you're cutting, and over here you can adjust the down feed rate to adjust how fast it is that you're cutting that also. Having a good bandsaw in the workshop has been a really lovely addition, just fantastic for cutting up my Damascus steel. Again, kind of same with the abrasives, buy the good blades, get the good blades. Thankfully, the one that Bailey provides with the bandsaw is very good, and so they kindly stock me up, which is great. Thank you, Bailey. Good blades and good abrasives. You're never going to pinch yourself for getting the good stuff, because it's always going to work better than the cheap stuff, and it means you save time. And of course, as I said, time tends to be money. And last but certainly least, we're going to talk about this. This is a little bit of a wood-cutting bandsaw, and frankly, I'm really not that chuffed about it. It's not the best bandsaw in the world, not the best piece of equipment in the world. It does the job for cutting stuff, except it'll rarely cut it squarely. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this video. It's been a blast having you here in the workshop, and it's also been a blast to give you a little bit of an insight as to how it is that I've enjoyed the grinding room now, 3 or 4 months on from building it. I am a big fan of separating that stuff out of there. I'm a big fan of that. It is really good. I know it's going to be good for my health, and I know it's good for keeping the dust down in the rest of the workshop, so that's just fantastic. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you subscribe, because we build stuff all the time, and we film it, and we throw it on YouTube, so make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you drop a like, leave a comment below, tell us if there's any other gear that we've missed here that you'd like us to talk about, and I'd be thrilled to include that in a video. Thank you very much. I'm going to see you very soon on the next episode. Bye-bye.